Hi to you, good morning, welcome to the south of France and welcome to the Ferrari Challenge Coppa Shell qualifying session about to get underway. Our second qualifying session of the weekend to set the grid for the second race of the weekend. It is our opening event of a phenomenal calendar that we have for you in prospect for 2026. So here we are then. It's an iconic circuit. Famed, actually, for much of what you can see there, the painted runoff areas. And here is the calendar that I mentioned in prospect. Here we are in Le Castellet. From here we go to Mugello, then Spielberg in Austria. Then it's Le Mans in support of the 24-hour race, then Portimao, Budapest and Barcelona. May I remind you, three-time winners in Le Mans of the hypercar class. Just thought I'd mention that and wonder if we can make it 4 in a row this year. Well, the Ferrari Challenge will be there to support our colleagues in the hypercar as well. So an awesome calendar for 2026. The Coppa Shell drivers, both Coppa Shell and Coppa Shell Am, put on a fine show for us in their race yesterday, and we're expecting much of the same today. The track temperature is 10 degrees. The air temperature is a cool 7 degrees. And I do mean cool, with 13 kilometers per hour of wind. The wind chill factor makes it feel somewhat colder than 7 degrees, I would suggest. This is the circuit, 5.842 kilometers. There are 15 turns. 6 of them are left and 9 of them are right-handers. It's a track that is quite different in the third sector to Sector 2 and Sector 1. Sector 1 and Sector 2 are real power sectors. Sector 3 is more of a technical sector. The track was built in '69, first held a race in 1970. And here we can see everyone that will be taking part in qualifying. If they have a black colour behind their numbers, it means they're a Coppa Shell Am driver. If it's a yellow colour, it means they're a Coppa Shell driver. Stephen Earle, Paolo Scudieri, Boris Gideon, Andreas Koenig, Jean Roux, Henrik Hamstrup, Masaru Yoneda, Shintaro Akatsu. Then we have Alexandra Lima, Lisa Clark, Tibor Valent, Charles Chan, Lucas Azato, race winner yesterday, Pino Frascaro, Alvaro Ramos, Fritz Muller, Ken Sato, Sven Schirmer, von Skeltermar, Alwa Mayer, Jan Sandman, race winner yesterday, Leon Rindbeek, Ivan David Mari, Eric Chung and Alexei Komarov. And Nico Spalek is not on the entry list in terms of Coppa Shell drivers, but he is certainly on the entry list in support of us here in broadcast. Good morning, my friend.
Good morning, and well, definitely better that I'm not in the car anywhere near a racetrack. For very, very good reasons. We have our contestants who know what they're doing out there, and I think it's fair to say they have shown that yesterday with great respect given to all of them in very changeable conditions, both especially in qualifying yesterday. And as you said, it is very, very chilly out there, but it is dry.
Yes.
And that is hugely different than yesterday when these drivers in Coppa Shell and Shell Am went out for their qualifying sessions. Final stages of preparation before we get underway in exactly 1 minute from now.
Charles Chan gets into his car, and I know you're always across everything that is critical. Sven Schirmer, we were speaking to him just a few moments ago at breakfast along with Mrs. Schirmer, and delighted that Sven is back in the series. He's in a very cheerful mood this morning. Let's hope it remains that way. He, of course, won the Coppa Shell Am Championship last year, Nico, and it was a fraught fight between himself and Jan Sandman, as it was in the race yesterday, interestingly. There's Boris Gideon. Sorry, I was going to go on to say you're across nearly everything involved in motor racing. The weather prospects, the forecast for today, will it remain dry in your opinion?
Yeah, that's the forecast anyway. It's going to be chilly, it's going to be very windy, but we don't expect any significant precipitation and rainfall across today. So the slick tires, which were not used in qualifying yesterday, they were used in the race.
Yes.
And if history is anything to go by, most, if not all of the cars who go out there will do so initially on the tires that they competed the race on yesterday.
Yeah, the strategy is normally you go out on an old set of tires for kind of half of the session or as near as makes no difference. Get your eye in, get everything set up, then you come in and you take a new set, because it's that second set of tires, Nico, the new set, that you will be using for the race today?
Exactly. The first part of qualifying session is more finding yourself, finding the car setup. Is everything okay? And then obviously you want the best banker you can at that stage. But then usually that's how most drivers manage it. They come back at different points in the session, but between 10 and 20 minutes they come in, they change to the new fresh set, and this is obviously the set that they then feel this is the one that they can set the best times on.
And presumably, the least they can use those tyres gives them great rubber longevity in the race.
Absolutely. And, the history of these two drivers...
It's back to the old battle.
Jan Sam and Sven Schirmer, you already mentioned the battle that they had all season long in 2025. And it was similar yesterday already.
Yes.
Again, different track conditions. It was kind of like a chase on the outlap to see who was out front, not to set any time, but just to have the vision and the clear track in front of them. And I think it was Sven actually who came out on top of that outlap battle, but it was Jan Salman who came out on the better side come the end of the race in the afternoon.
Yes, it was. And the reason for that being first really in qualifying yesterday, critical as Nico suggested, because what that gave you was clear visibility with the spray being thrown up from other cars. Not so critical today. In fact, the one that could get a benefit from this is actually this driver, Sven Schirmer, because if he's close enough to Jan Salman, he is able to take a benefit of a small draft off the back of the Jan Salman car, potentially. Probably isn't close enough to be able to do so right now, but if he can get a bit closer, then he might be able to do so. So their outlaps are completed, and they'll begin to put some meaningful lap times on the board, and it'll be interesting to see. I remind you that we have two classes together qualifying. If the drivers are yellow in terms of their markings with our graphics and also across the top of the windscreen, it means they're a shell driver. If it's black on the graphics and black across the top of their windscreen, it means they're a Shell AM driver. So Sven Schirmer we ride on board with now. Brilliant to be able to bring you these pictures from inside the Ferrari Challenge 296 car. Jan Salman has gone quicker than anyone in Sector 1. Well, that's not difficult because hardly anyone's been out. These are the first times we're really going to see. We're only 3.5 minutes into the session, to be fair, so a lot of running to be done. Now, what played a part in qualifying yesterday and also played a part in the race is the fact that, as we go through the FIA speed camera, is that track limits are very closely monitored here at certain points in Paul Ricard, where you can get an advantage if you just run a tad wider than perhaps you should. You get a little bit of a slingshot and an advantage. Well, race controller are completely aware of that, and there are cameras installed at said places. Now, in qualifying, if you're deemed to have exceeded the track limits by running all four wheels outside the white lines, that lap time that you are on and you will post will be deleted. In the race, you get 3 warnings, and after 3 warnings, and the 4th time you do it, you get a time penalty. So there are consequences. Now, there are clever drivers too who realise that in the race they can use it 3 times and get away with it. And they do, and why wouldn't you? In qualifying, it's a tad more critical because you don't want to do all that hard work and expend all that tyre grip only to have your time taken away. So it'll be interesting to see. At the moment, no one falling foul, but there are cameras there to make sure they don't. Jan Salman P1 and Sven Schirmer P2. The difference between the two of them, about a second. But don't think it will necessarily stay that way. Nico.
No, I mean, 2:08, we're not going to bore you with yesterday's quali times because given they were posted in the wet, they bear no reference to this session. No, obviously, as we already said, we expect the best times to come towards the second half of the session, but you never know what happens. And the other part, just to pick up what you just said in terms of track limits and making sure that your efforts count, there is a number of 25 cars out there, and even though it's quite a lengthy circuit with long straights, there are certain parts of the circuit where if you come up upon a slower car, who's either on an outlap or just not as quick as you, your lap can be right royally compromised.
Yeah.
And that means having a clear lap, then you should absolutely try and make the most of that for various very good reasons.
Masaru Yaneda has already, forgive me, Masaru Yaneda has already picked up a lap time deletion. Now, not even showing on the left-hand side of your screen because the time hasn't been posted on account of the fact the lap time was deleted. So there you go, it does happen in qualifying as well as in the race. Paolo Scudieri crosses the timing line. Now, Luke Cesato is the quickest of the Shell Am drivers, and he was victorious yesterday in the race, so perhaps no surprise there. Taro Akatso is P2, and Pino Frascaro is third fastest. We're on board with Boris Gideon, the Rilla and Schnauk driver, and we run the telemetry from the Boris Gideon car. That is being sent to us electronically, live from the car, into and onto our screen. So you can see that he's in fourth gear, now he's in fifth gear, and he will pull something like 240 kilometers per hour before he has to brake. 244, 250 kilometers per hour. I do you a disservice, Boris Gideon. You can see when he's braking, when he's using the throttle, and the throttle is absolutely welded to the floor at that point before braking once again. Not sure he got that corner exactly right, Boris, if I'm honest with you. But then it's easy for me to contemplate that, sitting here, pretending to know what I'm talking about. He's in the car having to do it, Nico.
Yeah, absolutely he is. And I mean, what I gather from this onboard shot, which is great images brought to us from our colleagues in the OB van and all around the circuit, and obviously in this case from the OB onboard camera, it's this final part of the circuit where you're effectively never on a straight line. You're always turning left, right, and you really, even if a slight difference at the exit of one turn will make a huge difference in terms of how you can attack and approach the next apex. So it's kind of like a continuous movement, and nailing that 100% is a challenge. I can't even imagine how difficult it is, and to do that lap after lap after lap, when sometimes there's also the pressure on you, whether it's just the time or other cars in front and behind you, and then to having to navigate traffic at the same time. I mean, I'm glad that we are here, and I'm glad that they are in the car, and give us such a great show to talk about.
Yes. Some people can walk the walk, others talk the talk, and it was defined very early on. That's where our skill lied. Skill in the loosest possible terms. Andreas Koenig has gone quickest for the Shell Am drivers, ahead of Shintaro Akatsu and Lucas Sato. Von Skelterman now second fastest, and Derek Chung third fastest in terms of the Shell drivers. And there is Sven Schirmer. You can see him talking away there. He's not talking to himself. What he's doing is talking to his driver coach, who this weekend on his own is Andrea Gagliardini. Because Max Blancardi, I mean, Sven Schirmer actually has two driver coaches. And one of them, Max Blancardi, will be on duty in the Thermal Club in North America this weekend, where our Ferrari Challenge North America series is running. The Ferrari Challenge, with 6 championships around the world, is the most revered single-make championship around the world. And yeah, it geographically is extended and extending all the time, and so thrilled to be a part of it.
Yeah, couldn't have said that any better, and Andreas Koenig probably couldn't have done that lap any better. 2 purple sector times, and I rather think that indeed he vaults all the Shell drivers and jumps all the way to the top at 2:06.937 as we take a look at the Jan Sandman car. Relegated from P1 overall to P1 in class only. Yesterday's race winner. Yeah, I mean, with all the different regions, and as you say, we had yesterday only on track the UK, Europe, obviously, as well as North America. We all already seen the Australasian Championship, and together with the Suzuka Formula One Grand Prix will be the launch of the 2026 season for our Japan competition. And so across this month, we will have all the regions underway that compete in the summer of 2026. And I say summer, even though we're not even at 8 degrees this morning here in Le Castellet. It's early summer, let's call it like that. Dr. Stephen Earle.
Now, his qualifying yesterday was pretty dramatic, Nico.
Yeah. Didn't go according to plan. And if memory serves, ended up in the barrier fairly early on and brought out a red flag. Obviously, he perfectly okay. Luckily, the car is okay, and he is out there on track. Took a few more moments to repair the barriers, in fairness. But great to see Dr. Stephen Earle back on track. And I mean, as you can see, he hails from North America, from the United States, but chooses to race here in Europe, even though there is a North American race on at the same weekend. So it just shows how intertwined these different regions of the Ferrari Challenge are, and it's, yeah, we couldn't be more thrilled to have him here.
I agree with you. Here's Henrik Kamstrup. Sector 1 and Sector 2 painted purple, Nico, which is nice to see, because that means he's doing all right in terms of lap time, which kind of underplaying what he's achieving here, aren't I?
Yeah, very, very good lap, and Andreas Koenig has just stretched his legs, increased his lead at the very top end of the chart to 1.7 seconds over everybody else. But Henrik Kamstrup, as you can see, he is on a flyer, and he's trying to unseat said Andreas Koenig from that spot in the sun. And he's only got one more turn to do. This is the final turn, the right-hander, which propels him out onto the start-finish straight. It's a few seconds until he reaches the timing line at 2:06.548, and is not quite there. Lost a few tenths on the final sector, but very, very good P2 overall, as well as in class.
In replay, there you can see the electric blue, if I'm allowed to say that, Nico. It's a very distinctive colour scheme across the Henrik Kamstrup car. This is Pino Frescaro, driving for the Nicky Hasler DNC racing team. Pino and Mrs. Pino are wonderful characters in the paddock, as are all of our Ferrari Challenge competitors. Wonderful people, and Pino Frescaro and Mrs. Pino staying at the same hotel as us, Nico, and as is always the case, providing us with plenty of chocolate.
Us?
Well, okay, me. Well, actually, my wife.
There you go.
destined for fairer faces than mine, has to be said. And Mrs. Pino was absolutely sure to tell me that as well. It's for Charlotte, not for you.
Well, Pino Frescaro, very much part of the Ferrari Challenge family, and currently running in P7 in class. Said yesterday that in qualifying they had some issues in getting everything aligned properly, which meant that his qualifying position was lower than he hoped for and what it possibly could have been. Remains in P7 for the time being. We're just having elapsed just under half of this session, with 16 minutes still remaining, so lots of time still there. And we talked early on about the progression from yesterday's rubber to today's Pirelli P0, and we've seen quite a few of the drivers having come into the pit lane, currently being on their outlap. So we're kind of at the stage where this second half, the one that's more critical for the final times potentially, has started to unravel.
Which is why you're seeing people like Sven Schirmer on the left-hand side of your screen. If you're looking at the graphics, overall he's P11, he's actually P5 within class, but you know, expect that to change, to be fair. Boris Gideon, another driver that's had a lap time deleted on track limits reasons, as Paolo Scudieri, who's done a personal best through Sector 1 and Sector 2, is currently fourth within class. Will this be an improvement for Paolo Scudieri? He's making his way through the technical sector, the third sector of the Paul Ricard circuit, which is the technical one, and he heads to break the timing beam now. Let's see if this is an improvement from P4 for Paolo Scudieri. It isn't, because he lost time in the final sector, and I think what that goes to prove, Nico, is when the drivers and the engineers work together, they kind of have to compromise the setup of the car to accommodate two what I would consider real power sectors, which are sectors 1 and sector 2, and then the real twisty-turny sector 3, which, as you said, you're always turning, you're never in a straight line effectively. So that setup of the car is always something of a compromise to suit the driving style of the driver, and also where you can maximize the potential of these wonderful 296 Challenge cars.
Absolutely, and this is something where different drivers, different teams will have different ideas and different strategies. And even though obviously the 296 Challenge cars are all identical, not only in Europe but across all the different regions, this is a little bit of an area where you can adjust and manipulate, in the positive sense, how exactly the car will behave on a given circuit, given the exterior conditions as well.
We're looking at the team of Scuderia Prague right now, who of course in Championship last year were hugely successful in Coppa Am. They won in Trofeo Pirelli Am. They won the championship with Hendrik Viol. And yeah, Scuderia Prague are represented out there with their driver driving in Coppa Shell, and that is something that they've had for a number of years with Alexei Komarov, Scuderia Prague driver, who's currently 5th in class. Alexei, a very, very good driver. As Jan Sandman now, I suspect, on new rubber is setting a very fast time. Sector 1 is purple, Sector 2 a personal best, Nico. This is Jan Sandman then, who, as I say, I suspect has gone onto that new rubber and is trying to post a time that will be good enough for pole position. Now, do bear in mind that pole position in the Ferrari Challenge not only gives you the benefit of starting from the first place on the grid, but it gives you an additional point, which come the end of the year, what do points make? Well, points make prizes in terms of where you are. So Jan Sandman, can he grab an additional point? Only 12.5 minutes really for us to wait and see if that is the case. And can see on the feed that is sent into our studio, Mrs. Pino, who we were talking about just a few moments ago. I wonder if our team will put that up on our main screen and the main feed for us, because that would be nice to see. But quite rightly, they stay with Jan Sandman for the moment, who he goes 1.4 seconds quicker than previous, but it's still not enough to get to the Andreas Koenig time, Nico.
Yeah, and it's a dead heat with Henrik Hemstruck. They have posted exactly the same time, which is something we see only very occasionally. Let's see how that plays out. In that case, incidentally, whoever sets the time first will have the better grid position. Sven Schirmer, he was on a very, very quick one through Sector 1. The second wasn't quite as fast, but still very respectable. So let's see how that traffic, which we saw on screen, may have affected his lap. There's only one more turn to do and a few more meters before we will actually find out. I don't think that he lost a little bit of time on the final sector, which means his P5 becomes P3 in class, but is not the front row start, which is effectively the only thing that Sven Schirmer finds acceptable for himself. And it's actually only one spot on the front row, which he actually finds acceptable.
And that's what compromised him, basically. It was Tibor Valent, you could see there, and Tibor was doing his level best to get out of the way. But you can't make your car disappear, Nico, and I mean, credit to Tibor Valent doing everything he could properly to try and not hamper Sven Schirmer, who was on a hot lap, but just unfortunately it did impact his lap, and there's actually naff all he could do about that, frankly. Von Skeltermar is on a mission, Nico. Personal best through Sector 1, better than anyone through Sector 2. The Shark's teeth are front of the Von Skeltermar car. Seemingly are sharpened, ready for battle.
Absolutely. Expect over the next minute or two a lot of times to come tumbling down as we look at plenty of purple on our timing screen, including, as you said, Von Skeltermar in that final sector. Got a few more turns to do. This is one of the spots where you have to really, really manage the amount of momentum you take out of the turn, because if you take too much, it will spit you out onto the side of the road. If you take too little, you just lose time. But Von Skeltermar, he's done that fairly well. A little bit of a wobble coming out of the final turn, but I think this is definitely an improvement.
Old power slide. It wasn't a wobble.
And he moves all the way up into P1, 1.3 seconds quicker than anybody else. And that means, I think the chase for pole position is firmly on over the next 10 minutes.
Can I bring you some bad news?
No, actually not.
Sven Schirmer's last lap time has been deleted for track limits.
Oh.
Which means he's not where he wants to be, certainly, and he's got to do it all over again to be where he wants to be. So there's still a lot going on here as Fons Skeltermar at the top of the timing chart, as you can see. Then it's Shintaro Akatsu and Andreas Koenig. There's Paolo Scudieri, you can see there. This is, I have to say, I find qualifying sometimes as exciting as the race itself, Nico, because strategy comes into play, finding track space out there. I mean, it's a busy track. You've got 25 cars out there, all vying for the same piece of tarmac and to set the best time they can. And here comes Lucas Azato with purple sector 1, purple sector 2. Now, bear in mind, he's P10 at the moment. Bear in mind, too, he was race winner yesterday in class.
Indeed, and he has shown that he's mighty quick. Now, purple means that he is quickest in class. Let's see where that will put him in Shell-Am as well as overall, because come the race time, we will mix up the categories. Wherever they qualify, they will start, and P10 becomes P3 in class again, which is P4 overall, so a significant improvement. Expect more from him based on yesterday's pace and performance. As we take a time to reflect on the 296 challenge, going through the turns, attacking the apex, and we go into the garage. There is Sven Schirmer. As you said, his lap time had been deleted, and if Sven Schirmer's character is anything to go by, that will positively enrage him in the way that it will incentivize him to be even quicker the next time around.
He is. Oh, we've got a yellow flag, Nico.
Right there.
He's, and that was just in front of Sven Schirmer, forgive me. So, yes, you're right, it will enrage and incentivize in the same breath. I mean, he is one of the most colourful characters, is Sven Schirmer, and he's certainly, you know how he's feeling, don't you? You can tell that from you can tell that sometimes. Oh, we've got a red flag, Nico.
Yeah.
You can tell that sometimes from his facial expressions before we even hear the audio, which is not necessarily broadcastable sometimes. But there we are, red flag then, with 7 1/4 minutes remaining. That means von Skeltermar P1 for the Shell drivers, Tibor Valint P2 and Sven Schirmer P3. Now for the Shell-Am drivers, it's Shintaro Akatsu, Andreas Koenig and Lucas Azato, yesterday's race winner. So very good showing from the driver of the 115 car, Shintaro Akatsu. So let's take a look here. Oh, and that is definitely the reason for the flag. So what you had a coming together there between the car of Charles Chan and the car of Alvaro Ramos.
Yeah, and I'm not sure, I wasn't quite able to pick it out whether the incident came as a result of the spinning of our Ramos car, or if that was the impetus to spin the car around. I'm sure race control will have a look at that. Tibor Valent and Sven Schirmer both set their times, which are currently setting them in P2 and P3, the dying stages before the red flag, and that was also when there was a yellow flag in that area. So I didn't look at the sector times, I didn't catch them, so they may have been that quick that even with easing up in the final sector, it put them there. But you can tell that certainly race control will look at any very good times which were set.
We've got quite a bit of debris on the track, which is why, you know, that's got to be cleared up before we can go again. Fons Skeltermar, P1, well done, Fons. I told you those shark's teeth in front of the car were sharp and ready to bite. Well done. Fons Skeltermar, Tibor Valint, Sven Schirmer, the top 3, Jan Sandman is P4. Now, if the colour bars on the left-hand side of the screen are the yellow, that means they're a Shell driver. If it's black, it means they're a Shell-Am driver. So we're in a red flag situation, which means the qualifying session has been paused. We do have dry weather today. Yesterday it was wet weather, and that impacted the qualifying session. But we don't expect this to be a very long red flag suspension. Paolo Scudieri is making his way down the pit lane to be in that queue of cars. You want to be out as quick as you possibly can, because you're only going to have 7 1/4 minutes, which, Nico, you do the calculations. You know, actually, by the time you've done 1, maybe 2 out laps, what are you going to do? Get 2 laps in, potentially, maybe 3? I can see you pondering because the smoke is coming out of your ears.
No, I think you realistically, if you take 2 laps to get everything yourself, the car, the Pirelli P0s up to perfect working conditions, I think you will get 2 laps. Okay. If you can get everything done and set up within 1 lap, you might get 3.
Right.
But as you can see, it's
going to be very busy, isn't it?
Yeah, everybody's going to be out there very quickly. So finding track space is another part of the equation.
Let's take a look at some of the things that we've seen in qualifying thus far right now. Highlights of qualifying that we've seen so far. That is the 104 car of Andreas Koenig, the ML Ferrari racing driver who's currently 2nd in class. There is Henrik Kamstrup. We're in a red flag situation, which is why we're showing you the highlights of some of the qualifyings that we've seen so far. The session is going to go back live again in about 1 minute and 3/4 time, we're being told, once somebody's been out with a broom and cleared up the debris around that turn and made sure the track is clean and tidy again for our drivers to go out there and set their times for qualifying. And it's going to be a real fight to the finish here. This is where Sven Schirmer saw his really good lap compromised through no fault of Tibor Valiant, who was trying to avoid. And we're back to the live pictures now with the cars at the end of the pit lane and getting ready to go again in about 1 minute's time. There is Andreas Koenig. He feels he's done the best he can do, Nico, because he's out of the car. The ML Ferrari racing driver is out of the car. He is not going to go better than P2 because he's not going to be able to get back in that car and get, well, he could, but I don't think his demeanor doesn't look like he's going to make a dash for the car, to be honest with you. Just before we get going again, always get lots of messages into our commentary studio here, and great to hear from my buddy in the Netherlands, Johan van der Kerkhoff, who's watching our qualifying session. Hasn't had the best of health recently, so best wishes to you, Johan. You're a bit like me, aren't you? I am suffering a bit at the moment, but good to know that you're watching, good to know you're okay. He's a fine photographer, Nico, and model maker. Has deft fingers, you know, and the ability to do things, unlike me, who's a complete lump and can't do anything like that. So,
the ability to do things. I will put that on my resume next time it's needed. I have the ability to do things. I have the ability to tell you that in about 7 seconds from now we'll go back qualifying. It's gonna be a fierce one with 7 minutes and 16 seconds remaining only, and here we are, green flags out. Ability to do things.
All right. Oh. His Majesty's English is wasted on me, isn't it?
Not quite. It's very creative. And it leaves sometimes space for interpretation. Pino Frescaro left space in front of him, which may not be to the joy of everybody else who was queuing up behind him. That's one way to find track space in front of you, but...
Now this is... Get back on script. This is Andreas Koenig. Do you know what? Here he is approaching the car. Is he going to get back in? He's surely he ain't going to have time. 6.5 minutes, Nico, to get the hands device and crash helmet back on, get back in the car, get belted up and going again. Ain't going to happen.
No, and actually when we had the stoppage, I was musing a little bit whether some drivers might decide to not put the extra strain and have the Pirelli P0s go through their heat cycle once again. But then everybody was queuing up at the end of the pit line. Well, everybody, very huge number of cars were, and I kind of dismissed the thought. Let's see, we currently have about 7 drivers, including Tibor Valiant, Andreas Koenig and Lucas Azato, all not having emerged from the pit lane. And That means 18 cars are currently on their outlap. Let's see if any of the others decide. And yes, I can see from our commentary window the 108 car of Jean Rouy coming out of pit lane.
Okay.
So that means we've got 5 cars. Tibor Valent, Andreas Koenig, Lucas Azato has also filed out of pit lane. So the vast majority have decided to give it another go.
Yeah, we ride on board as the car comes out of the pit lane here. This is great onboard pictures that we're able to bring you of Boris Gideon making his way. Nico, this bothers me, the really, really dark, threatening cloud that you can see from that onboard shot there, which means presumably the threat is always there. I know you said that it is forecast to stay dry, but that shot of the cloud would suggest the potential for otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, the forecast is, as you can tell, is not 0%. Across today, we have 20-30% of rain every hour, but if there is rain, the forecast is that it might be a few drops, nothing significant like we had yesterday. But it's a forecast, and like in motorsport, forecasts are only that.
Yes. The order before the stoppage: von Skeltermaar, Tibor Valent, Sven Schirmer, the top 3 for our Shell drivers. For our AM drivers, Shintaro Akatsu, Andreas Koenig, and yesterday's race winner, Lucas Azato, with Henrik Kamstrup doing a good P4 in qualifying. Everything to be done in the 4.5 minutes that remain in this qualifying session. We are live from the Paul Ricard circuit in the south of France. The weather is very un-South of France-like, it has to be said. It's blooming cold, although my colleague who you've heard alongside me has been manipulating the heating controls in the studio, and it's like putting a sauna in here now. It's really warm. So thank you for that. Here's Sven Schirmer we ride on board with now. This is going to be a timed lap, and his first timed lap in the 4 minutes he has remaining. The telemetry to the right-hand side of your screen as Sven Schirmer mullers his car through the turns. Got to be aware of track limits. Got to not exceed those track limits. Do not put more than 2 wheels across those white lines that delineate the track, Sven. Third gear. Back on the gas again, just feathering it, and then full chaff flat when he can. The sound of these wonderful 296 Challenge machines, and that look of this car, it's utterly menacing. 5th gear now, climbing to 200 kilometers per hour as Andreas Koenig looks on and studies the data on the right-hand side of your screen as we split that screen. Is he going to reach 270 kilometers per hour? Yes, he does, before braking once again. We ride on board with a full lap with Sven Schirmer. Sector 1, Nico, did not look quite where he'd like it to be.
No, it has to be said, the gap between von Skeltermaar in P1 and Sven Schirmer in P3 is only 1/10.5, so he really effectively has to match the pole time to realistically get any improvement in terms of position. So the 8/10ths that he was down in the first sector means that opportunity is not there for this lap, but there's another 2 minutes 40 seconds remaining, and I think he will cross the timing line, the finish line, with enough time to do 2 more after this one. So
2 more, you think? I thought it was only going to be 1. So.
Well, we'll see. His best time is a 2:05, and we are at 2:27. It's track limits anyway on this occasion, but if he crosses the timing line with more than 2 minutes and 6 seconds, which he should, that would give him 2 more chances. It's going to be close, and I think he's going to be the only one. Everybody behind him will not have that opportunity. Let's monitor 2:11, 2:10, 2:09, 2:08, 2:07, 2:06.
I don't think he's done it.
It's going to be close. I think it's possible, but I think it's going to be very, very, very close.
In replay, yeah, well, that was a bit of a slam dunk, really. It was when the back end of the car just snapped. He controlled it perfectly, but of course that does immediately provoke a track limits, doesn't it, Nico? Because you've exceeded those track limits. There's Andreas Koenig looking on, well, von Skeltermaar, his last lap, a 2:05.148. We've only got 2/10ths between P1 and P2. Sven Schirmer is still in the mix, but at the moment it would be a second row start for Sven Schirmer, wouldn't it? This is Tibor Valent, then the Rosso Corsa racer. And Tibor Valent has got a rich history in the Ferrari Challenge, Nico. He raced in it for a long time and then had a break away and then came back, and his son Bence also raced, and Bence is a young superstar, no question, and Tibor Valent now has taken 4/10ths out of the von Skeltermaar time. and gone to the top of the chart.
Yeah, and he's the first one of the next group. Von Skeltema actually improved on his previous provisional pole. Tibor Valent took that and +1 did. So now Tibor Valent, Von Skeltema, Sven Schömer, Lucas Asato, and yesterday's winner Jan Sandman, who we are watching here, fairly down the order for the time being.
And quite erratic, Nico.
Yeah, and this for him should be the last chance. I don't think that he's going to get another opportunity because there is Sven Schömer in front of him. And we might see a very, very different starting order compared to yesterday. We still had 19, 18 seconds, but I don't think that Jan Sandman will get another shot. Sven Schömer was very much on the edge, and it depends how
I don't think he did enough, Nico.
Let's see, 7 seconds, 4 seconds. For Jan, it's the last chance. What does the timing say for Sven Schömer? Yeah, he has seen the checkered flag as well, so no improvement for him. Jan Sandman, slight improvement in terms of position, but P5 overall is definitely not where he envisioned this to end up. And there are more cars out there, including Boris Gideon.
Yes, now Boris Gideon, one of the Shell-Am drivers. It's Lucas Asato, P1 at the moment, Shintaro Akatsu, and then Andreas Koenig. But can Boris Gideon dislodge any of those, as he's really pushing hard? The Riller and Schnauk driver of the 103 car, Boris Gideon, always there or thereabouts. And right now, he will give it 100% on the loud pedal as he heads towards the timing beam. Can he improve from P6 in class? He can, P3, so he relegates Andreas Koenig down to P4. So Andreas Koenig, we know, finished his session earlier, didn't he? And we can see on one of the shots into our studio that Andreas Koenig was watching the data and watching the timing screen, and sort of stepped back in annoyance when he saw that his P3 had been taken away.
Yeah, especially because overall that drops him from the 4th to the 5th row.
Yeah.
However, we get on our timing screen that a number of laps are deleted.
Oh, including Boris Gideon.
And that includes Boris Gideon. Still out there and chasing is Eric Chung, with a chance to still improve from his P4. He's probably going to be the last one to do something about the sector times, but the traffic in front of him now may hamper his efforts. Good avoidance there, but it might still cost him a few 100s, which may just be enough. But let's see. He is going to be the last one with a chance to do something about the front 2 rows. Currently in P4, a little bit of a sideways moment there. He would need to improve a little bit, but not too much. P4.
Stays P4. Eric Chung returning to racing.
Absolutely. I mean, all credit. P4 start is very good, but he didn't need much more to vault Sven Schömer. Didn't quite find it there, and that was just a small part of it.
It's going to be a very entertaining race for the point that you make. There is Corinne Chung, Eric Chung's partner and wife and lovely lady, and always there with Eric and always supporting him. And I've spent many times in airport lounges around the world with Eric and his wife, sharing a coffee, and yeah, great company. And yes, so pleased that Eric is back racing. He had a year off last year, and he's back racing this year. Tibor Valent and Von Skeltema then are on the front row of the Shell category, as Lucas Asato and Shintaro Akatsu. Really impressed with Shintaro. That's a really good qualifying session. P2 for him, with Andreas Koenig reinstated into P3 on account of the fact Boris Gideon ran wide and foul of the track limits rules.
Yeah, and that cost him quite a bit, from P8 overall on the grid down to P12. Yeah, and then obviously we will have Tibor Valent, Von Skeltema. We'll have Jan Sandman right behind Sven Schömer, and we started the session with these two cars going not head-to-head, but one after the other, and we'll have the same at the start of the race, which should be interesting.
It's going to be a very interesting race, so there we have it. We're looking at the Tibor Valent car now, some super shots of Thibaut Valent then, who, as I mentioned, been in the Ferrari Challenge for a number of years. Here's confirmation of the classification then. Thibaut Valent, von Skeltermar, Sven Schirmer, top 3 for the Shell drivers. Top 3 for the Shell Am drivers, Lucas Azato, Shintaro Akatsu and Andreas Koenig. Then we saw Ken Sato and Henrik Kamstrup. Give mentions to Eric Chung and Jan Sandman as well, P4 and P5 within glass. Then it's Masaru Yaneda, Boris Gideon, Jean Rieu, Ivan David Murray, Charles Chan, Fritz Muller, Alexander Lima, Leon Rinbeek, and Stephen Earl finishing P19 overall. Then it was Alexei Komarov, Alwar Mayer, who I had a chat with this morning at breakfast, Paolo Scudieri, Alvaro Ramos, and Pino Frascaro. So that is the way the cars will line up for the second of the Coppa Shell races to come this weekend. Our opening weekend of Ferrari Challenge Europe here in the south of France at the Paul Ricard circuit. From Nico and from myself, thank you so much for watching qualifying. We'll be back with qualifying for Trofeo Pirelli very soon. Bye-bye for now. Hello everyone, welcome to the Circuit Paul Ricard and welcome to Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli qualifying, which is about to get underway here. A 30-minute session of qualifying where, generally speaking, the strategy is thus. The cars go out for the first half of qualifying on a set of tyres from yesterday. And then in the second half of qualifying, or thereabouts, we'll go out on a new set of tyres to set the real laps, if you like, for their qualifying session. The Paul Ricard circuit. Then here is our calendar for 2026, and what a brilliant calendar it is as well. We're here in Le Castellet. Then from here we go to Mugello. Then it is Spielberg in Austria. Le Mans in support of the 24-hour race with 2 support races there. Then Portimao, Budapest and Barcelona. Generally speaking, when we've been to Le Mans, it's been for 1 race. And actually the powers that be, so determined in making the challenge as revered as it is, have been invited to take part in 2 races across the Le Mans weekend. So well done to those that made that happen. Is that raindrops on that screen, Nico, on that camera lens?
Might
just saying.
Might just be, but it doesn't. Yeah, I think it is. I don't think that it is in any shape significant. Looking out the window, no indication that that would necessarily change the complexion of this session. Here is the circuit.
Yes, it is the Circuit Paul Ricard. It was opened back in 1969, but actually the first race was only held in 1970. 5.84 kilometers long, 15 turns, 6 left, 9 right, and it's around about 50 kilometers. Which is about an hour from Marseille, if the traffic is on your side. If the traffic is not on your side, it might be longer. Yep. It's kind of pretty obvious, isn't it? The drivers that we will see are Sergio Paulet, Max Mugelli, and Gilles Renmans. They're the Pirelli drivers and the Pirelli Am drivers. Danilo Del Favaro, Herbert Geis, Sanders Bidstrup, Michael Verhagen, Jacob Bidstrup, Nobuhiro Imada, Otto Black, Giacomo Ronaldo, and Karl Runefeld. Now, the Pirelli drivers have a red strip across the top of their windscreen and red on the graphics that you will see on the left-hand side of your screen. The Am drivers have a white strip across the top of the windscreen and white against all their graphics. Nico, we're on board here and the wipers are going because the rain is coming down, buddy.
Yeah. So much for forecasts, and let's see. I mean, I can't imagine that anybody is questioning whether to go out on slicks, even though, as you can see from that windscreen, there are a few raindrops. It will certainly make the track a little bit more slippery than we had in the previous Coppa Shell qualifying. The advantage, obviously, in qualifying compared to the race is that the drivers can change and adjust and adapt to the weather conditions without compromising their position in the race.
Yeah.
But does throw another curveball at everybody, the teams, the drivers, in terms of how to best prepare and conduct this qualifying session.
Well, there you can see the Pirelli wet weather tyres being prepared in case they are needed. There you can see the treaded pattern. I can't remember, and I wish I could. And I need to speak to Lucio Vigani from Pirelli about the incredible performance of those Pirelli wet weather tyres, Nico. They dissipate some extraordinary amount of water through those tread blocks. Litres and litres per, it's amazing. Right, on the 94 car of Karl Runfeld, the slick tyres are being changed for wet tyres. This is before Karl from Formula Racing Autoropa has even been out, Nico. And there is, oh, how nice to see Martin there in the background of the picture. Former racer in the Ferrari Challenge. And right now, Race Control have deemed it a wet track, Nico.
Indeed, and that actually means that...
Help me out here. Martin from Autoropa, who we've just seen on camera. His surname is Martin
Nelson.
Thank you. I knew there was a column named after him. And yes, Martin. Great to see you back, friend. Wish we were seeing you in a racing car, though. Because he was a long-time competitor in the Ferrari Challenge. Very successful, Nico.
Yeah, definitely. The Autoropa team, very successful. Still remember his green and blue livery, which was really off-putting sometimes, because from the one side the car was entirely green.
You're absolutely right.
From the other side it was completely blue, and you were like, oh, it's the blue. No, it's the green. It's Martin Nelson. And he generally figured fairly significantly in the races for the best possible reasons. Nobuhiro Imada also figured very much in the race yesterday, more in defending than in overtaking, it has to be said, and he did that fairly steadfastly. Then all of a sudden 2 cars got by, and then he was back to defending again.
Yeah. He provided a lot of entertainment, didn't he?
Yeah, was very, very visible in the race yesterday, and for good reason. And it goes back to the international and global nature of the Ferrari Challenge, where we have drivers from Japan, North America, obviously Europe, the Middle East, etc. very regularly in the challenge, not only in Europe, but we have European races in North America and Japan, and it's really an interchange of cultures, and
that's very much encouraged.
Absolutely.
You are very, very welcome in the Ferrari Challenge to have an away day. If you want to go and race in another region, then that is something that you can do, and yes, it is encouraged. I think that whatever shower there was, it's dissipated and gone now, Nico. Because on all the camera lenses that I'm seeing now, whilst appreciating our very hard-working camera operatives will have been wiping the lenses, a bit like that. I really think it's stopped.
Sound effects brought to you by Day. Anders Bidstrup is still not providing the sound effects of a moving 296 Challenge and its power plant, but rather the sound of tires being changed. No, I think you're right, and it was kind of what the prediction was. There might be a few raindrops every now and then, but nothing significant that would dramatically change the complexion.
Well, Karl Runfeld from Autoropa Racing, when we were talking about Martin Nelson, who very much involved with Autoropa, and this was the car that had the wet weather tyres fitted, Nico, even before they left the garage. And it's interesting, his sector times are purple sector 1 and purple sector 2. So obviously he's able to push very, very hard, isn't he? Because the rubber that he's got on is exactly right for the very, very slightly moist track that we have now. But as I say, I think it's, even though the wipers are going, I'm not seeing raindrops across the camera lenses that we were seeing. So what have we got? 23 minutes remaining in this qualifying session. I think it's going to be very different across the session. I think the conditions at the start of the session are going to be very different to those that we find at the end of the session. So it is Karl Runefeld, Michael Verhagen, Herbert Guys, Danilo Del Favro, and Nobuhiro Imada, the top 5 at the moment, but they are the only 5 that have set meaningful lap times. And the Ferrari Warsaw driver, Michael Verhagen, be interesting to know what rubber he's on here. He's sliding the car about a bit, which would make me think that he's on slicks, but it's think only, and that's not something I do very well.
Disagreed. Not disagreed on the tire choice for the Michael Verhagen car. I believe that he is indeed on slicks. He obviously the race winner in Trofeo Pirelli Am yesterday, and setting the best time thus far, 2:11.283. Again, yesterday's track was decidedly wet, and therefore yesterday's lap time's not a good reference point.
It's a job. Both of us are staring at the screen, aren't we, trying to ascertain what tyres they're on. We know that Karl Runefeld is on wet weather tyres. We know that, but the gap difference between Michael Verhagen and Karl Runefeld is 4 seconds, Nico. That would tell me, or that would indicate to me that perhaps rubber is changing. Here comes Nobuhiro Imada. I can see from a feed into my studio, and Nobuhiro Imada is putting a new set of slick tyres onto his car, so that tells me that slicks are the right tyre choice at this part of the qualifying session, Nico. So the raindrops that we saw have gone away, and although we've got a yellow flag at turn 7, maybe someone has just had a spin. It looks like probably slicks are is the tyre choice to be on for the remainder of this session. We will see. 21 minutes of it remain, and Karl Runefeld then heads towards the timing beam now. And although he's done personal bests in Sector 1 and Sector 2, be fair, he's posted a very, very creditable time. But Michael Verhagen with a 2:11.283 is significantly ahead of, well, he's 1.5 seconds ahead of his next challenger. Now, what's happening here? Because Nobuhiro Imada having those new tyres. It's a replay of what we saw a few moments ago. Tyre gun being used then on the Nobuhiro Imada car. And in replay, well, that was a very, very scary sideways moment for Sergio Paulet, who held it nicely, I have to say, Nico. And Sergio Paulet, of course, victorious yesterday, back in the Ferrari Challenge. Great to see him back. He's currently 3rd fastest in the qualifying session thus far. More to come from Sergio, there is no doubt. Oh, and you can see the back end of the car really stepping out there as he gives it 100% on the loud pedal and crosses the timing line and becomes the quickest of our Pirelli drivers. But both Sergio and Gilles Renmans are behind 2 Pirelli Am drivers, those being Michael Verhagen and Herbert Guys.
Yeah, and I think it doesn't take a huge amount of Schosbar to predict that sequences and rankings will change before the end of this session. Talking about changing and ranking, Giacomo Rinaldo yesterday in qualifying was, in the best possible sense, nowhere significant until we looked up with mere seconds remaining, and all of a sudden he was P2 in class.
Yeah.
It was a lightning strike. Didn't have a great start to the race later on, but really came out of nowhere, and good to see him figure earlier in the session. Currently in P3 in class, P4 overall. Herbert Guys currently 2nd overall as well as in class, but pushing to possibly unseat Michael Verhagen from the P1 position. First 2 sectors indicative that that might indeed be a possibility.
Only 4 100s in it thus far, isn't there? Let's see. Michael Verhagen, Herbert Guys. Sergio Paulet, the best of the Pirelli drivers, and there is Herbert Guys. So quicker than anyone through Sector 1, personal best through Sector 2. The Maranello Motors Pro Racing driver abandons the lap, Nico.
Yeah, and I think it's just a testament to how important the progression in the session in terms of yesterday's Pirelli P0s and change to the new set of tires is for the drivers, that they obviously want to have the banker, but they wouldn't sacrifice another 2 minutes of time in the session to set that time and go around again. But they rather say, well, I want to be in the pits with 17 minutes remaining. I want to be back out with maybe 12 minutes remaining to have enough time to go through that second and arguably more important part of the session in my personal strategy. So I think that's very, very telling. And Michael Verhagen having come in at pretty much the same time.
Now we're on board here with Gilles Redmonds, who I think is bailing this lap, Nico, or preparing himself for the next one. Because he's slowed up and then he's increased, hasn't he?
Yeah, certainly sector time's not indicative of a attempt, and he's also coming into the pit. So we have reached this middle point of the session where action is not as its greatest, but it's only the precursor to what we just saw in the Coppa Shell qualifying.
Absolutely.
It does heat up quite significantly towards the end.
Giacomo Rinaldo, whom you were talking about just a few moments ago, Nico, has posted a 2:08.869, the only driver to be in the 2:08. And that puts him P1 overall, certainly P1 in class. So Giacomo Rinaldo, and we've seen a number of drivers, haven't we, over the years of the Ferrari Challenge, and those drivers who their strategy for qualifying is just come out, do what I need to do, go back in.
Yeah, and in terms of tire longevity for the race, that's exactly how you want to do it. Doesn't always work like that because of traffic, because of red flags, because of other circumstances.
Yes,
sometimes, very rarely, even a driver error. But
third-party influences can have an impact.
Absolutely, but obviously that is the ideal approach. You want to get seat time, you want to get track time during free practice and tests, etc. In qualifying, when it's dry, short, sharp, concise, successful.
There's Sergio Paula again, another driver that was on a projected good lap, but he's come into the pit lane, and they're the distinctive wing end plates of Otto Blank. And Otto Blank, great to have him racing once again in the Ferrari Challenge. He was here last year, and he has gone, Nico, to the top of the timing screen, the only driver to put it in the 207s. The track evolution, friend, is seeing the gap between Otto Blank in P1 and Giacomo Rinaldo in P2 of 1.159 at exactly halfway session.
Yeah, but I think Giacomo Rinaldo is not coming into the pits. Well, let's see if that prediction holds true. Yes, he does. He rounds the final turn, and through 2 sectors, he was half a second quicker than Otto Blank. So possibly see that position 1 and 2 flip-flop once again.
Indeed, you're right. And flip-flop by a huge margin. 2 seconds as near as makes no difference, Nico. So that means that the little moisture there was on the track has darn gone. And here comes Otto Blank to respond with a Sector 1 that is a similar colour to that of the end plates and door mirrors. It's coloured pink, which means it's quicker than anybody. So the Lueg Sportivo Pro Racing driver Otto Blank going for it, Nico.
Yeah, Otto Blank coming and passing that second sector line. Lost a little bit of time in the second sector, but we're talking 100ths of a gap. So very much in play for possibly recapturing P1, as he's been meanwhile relegated by Nobuhiro Imada, who has split the sandwich and is now in P2. In the meantime, pretty much everybody out on track. Verhagen, Geis, Paulet, Redmonds coming out of the pit lane, currently on their out lap. So expect those positions on the graphics to the left-hand side of your screen to change quite significantly in the next few minutes. But for the moment, it's Otto Blank that we focus on. One more turn to do.
They really, really muller that final turn. Here comes Otto Blank then. And in the end, stays P3. So it is Ronaldo, Imada and Otto Blank. And in replay, this is precisely what I was saying about Muller in those turns, Nico, and really just taking as much of the curb as you dare and just keeping two wheels in the vicinity of the black tarmac to make sure you don't fall foul of the race director, Claudio Garavini, and his track limits rules. Well, they are the international track limits rules, to be fair, but they are enforced by Claudio with a rod of steel across one's knuckles should you get it wrong. I am being metaphoric, of course.
Hopefully.
Imada here with personal bests across Sector 1 and Sector 2. And Max Mugelli has just gone to 2:06.787, so he becomes the best of the Pirelli drivers. The Pirelli drivers, I remind you, have a red strip across the top of the windscreen. The AM drivers have the white strip across the top of the windscreen, and it is Giacomo Rinaldo, the quickest of the AM drivers, and Max Mugelli, the quickest of the Pirelli drivers. Here comes Nobuhiro Imada. P2 in class, remains P2 in class. Not able to best Giacomo Rinaldo's time. He needs to find a further 3:06 tenths of a second.
Yeah. Now, I think there are different, and we said this before, there are different ways of approaching this. Giacomo Rinaldo, he stayed in the pit for a fairly long time and then came out towards the middle. So possibly he immediately went out with a new set of Pirelli P0s, and he's only effectively doing one stint in qualifying. Whereas, as we said before, some others have come out early, had a little coffee break in the middle. Not really, but changed to the new set of tires and now are going about their lap time chase once again. So it might just be that will mean that Ronaldo's time may not stand until the end of the session. We will find out. Max Mugelli is certainly trying his level best to get on terms with him.
Yes, and I would say this lap, as you can see from the graphics at the bottom of your screen, would say that the progression rate of one Mr. M. Mugelli, celebrating his birthday yesterday, the birthday cake doubtless consumed yesterday evening, has provoked him into being very quick today, dare I say. And as he rounds the final turn and heads towards the timing beam, we will see where this takes him overall. Already P1 in class, but P4 overall, and that becomes P1 overall with a huge gap to the next Pirelli driver, but a mere 3/10 gap to Giacomo Rinaldo, the AM driver, Nico.
Absolutely. Max Mugelli, good to see him on the track always, and good to see him, for his own sake, to be in P1. Tina in the pits will certainly like that as well. Nobuhiro Imada, second overall, second in class, third overall, becomes P1 in class and overall. So
yep.
Max Mugelli's reign supreme was short-lived for the time being.
Didn't last long.
As Sergio Paulet now also sets the first relevant time in terms of his qualifying session with a 2:04.7, jumps to P2 overall. So now, with less than 10 minutes remaining, the chase is firmly on for pole position.
So, certainly out of position at the moment is this man, Gilles Renmans. P3, but Sector 1 is painted purple. Gilles is going for it here. We have, as Nico indicated, 9 minutes of the session remaining. Sector 1 was coloured purple. Sector 2, a personal best. Through the technical section of this, or technical sector, I should say, of this Paul Ricard circuit now for Gilles. Keep it within the white lines, friend, and avoids the curbs as much as he can around this final section, giving it all he can. And then absolutely full chat flat before braking once again. You can almost feel the rumbling through the car. One right-hander to do. Kisses the apex. Nice exit. Back on the gas again. Here comes Gilles Renmans then. Where is this going to place him? Well, it places him P1 and Max Mugelli goes P2. So Very, very good driving from both of those drivers. We now find 2 Pirelli drivers, P1 and P2. It's Gilles Renman, Max Mugelli, and Nobuhiro Imada is the best of the AM drivers. We have 7 and 3/4 minutes of this qualifying session remaining, and Nobuhiro Imada proving that this is probably going to change all the way to the checkered flag, as he now goes P1 in class, or remains P1 in class, with another fantastic lap time. Only one driver in the 203s, and that's Gilles Renman. Everyone else is in the 204s. We are seeing track limits, and Sergio Paula has certainly had a couple of lap times deleted, Nico, so that proves just how hard everyone is pushing out there.
Yeah, and indeed, Sergio Paula's last lap didn't count due to track limits. Had it counted, it would have been 8/10 quicker than the current pole time. So just to show that there is still plenty of potential, and just one small mishap in terms of just exceeding the track limits a little bit can cost you dearly. Sergio Paula now obviously still having a lot of time, but that effort gone to waste, unfortunately, from his point of view. Here's Gilles Renman once again, currently reigning supreme and pushing once again.
Yeah, he wants to increase that supremacy, doesn't he? He's got traffic ahead of him. That traffic is Max Mugelli, if memory serves me. And he might just be able to get a benefit, not here, not in this sector, but in the previous sectors. If he'd been a bit closer to Max Mugelli, he could have got a benefit of a draft off the back of Max Mugelli. But this is Gilles Renman's then. We're running the telemetry so that you can see all the information coming live from the car into our broadcast suites. As Gilles Renman's back on the gas once again. Sector 1, Sector 2, both coloured purple. Is this going to be an improvement? It is an improvement, Nico. A marginal improvement, but an improvement nonetheless of 6/10.
Marginal?
Well, I'm sorry, yes. In the scale of the improvements we've seen.
It is quite a gap that he has to Max Mugelli, almost a second. Now again, Sergio Paula, he was very, very quick, and he is very, very quick again. Let's see where that puts him when he crosses the timing line. He's 3rd in class for the moment, but that won't necessarily be like that much longer. Final turn, timing line ahead of him. At 2:03.239 is the benchmark by Gilles Renman, and Sergio Paula beats it by 2/100ths of a second.
Now that is close. Yeah. That is marginal.
Agreed.
Wow. Well done, Sergio Paula. And to the best of our knowledge, he didn't go anywhere where he shouldn't have gone, which means the lap time will stick. So Gilles, I think, has eased up on this lap. He's not as quick as he once was. So it's Sergio Paula, Gilles Renman's Max Mugelli, and the top 3 AM drivers are Nobuhiro Imada, Giacomo Rinaldo, and Michael Verhagen. We've got just under 5 minutes of the session remaining, and you can see that the S1 and S2 on the graphics at the bottom of your screen are coloured grey, which means it's no improvement from Gilles across those sectors. He has got I think that's the Giacomo Rinaldo car ahead of him, which means that he is compromised, if you will, and he'll want to get by that before he tries to go again. But will he try to go again? You know, you have to think about tyre longevity and whether it's worth sacrificing another lap's worth of rubber relative to the tyre longevity that you could have in the race. Well, certainly he feels that he wants to go again, but he has got traffic. So we'll see what Gilles can do. And here is Sergio Paula with Sector 1 and Sector 2, both quicker than anyone. I love the really dynamic colour scheme across his 296 Challenge car, where the colours switch from left to right to left across the front and the back of the car. So Sergio Paula then, his team looking on, including Manuel Agostner, who's competing in the Ferrari Challenge UK series this year, a Coppa Shell champion from last year. And here comes Sergio Paula then, and another improvement, Nico.
Yeah, and more than almost half a second quicker than his previous best, which stretches his lead to almost 7/10 over Gilles Renman at this very junction of the session. And with 3 minutes remaining, that means that's quite a significant one. Anders Bidstrup as we still take a look at slow-mos, has vaulted quite a few drivers and is now P1 in the M's, third overall. So very, very good showing and a very, very good lap from Anders.
I saw Anders and Jacob towards the end of yesterday, and they didn't have a brilliant day yesterday, you may recall, and said, both of them still full of enthusiasm, and said, hey, tomorrow's a different day. And here comes Danilo Del Favaro, Nico. This is not sloth-like with a purple Sector 1 and a blue Sector 2. Danilo Del Favaro, of course, the Penske Sportwagen Hamburg driver. You know how I pronounce the Wagen with the correct...
Absolutely. You've Germanized a lot.
Never in a million years.
Danilo Del Favaro.
Moldy old broad. If anyone is an oval racing fan, they'll understand that. Sergio Paolo, Gilles Renmans and Anders Bidstrup, the top three. And Gilles Renmans is in the pit lane, Nico. And that kind of indicates that he feels he cannot do any more. We ride on board with him now. With less than 2 minutes remaining in this session, Gilles Renmans for Francorchamps Motors Brussels. At the moment, he's got a front row start, but that's not necessarily guaranteed. Somebody in the next minute and 3/4 could change that.
Well, he's running out of the pit lane once again. So just a very, very brief stint in there.
But he can't get another lap in, Nico.
No, he won't. Not sure quite what the rationale was there, but anyway, Gilles Renmans still out there. Yes, I mean, he challenged for the race win yesterday, coming from way down the order, so a front row start would certainly be an improvement over yesterday's positions. As you said, that's not guaranteed, although in fairness, not quite seeing the times from the other drivers which would rival his front row start. Herbert Geis currently 6th in class, had a better qualifying yesterday than that, and I don't think that he's necessarily on for an improvement.
I can't get over why Gilles came in and then went straight back out again. I cannot see where the advantage is. Data collection, perhaps? I don't know.
We'll find out over lunch what the rationale was there. Anyway, Herbert Geis, he's coming into the pit lane with 36 seconds remaining. He decides that there is no point in pushing for one more quick lap. There is Nobuhiro Imada, who
parks up just below us, to be fair. Not convinced anyone is on an improvement trajectory here, Nico. I think our session is done.
Yeah, unless someone still crosses the line with some time remaining, and we've got exactly 10 seconds of time remaining to do exactly that. There is no lap time currently on our timing screen which would indicate a significant or any improvement. Michael Verhagen, 2nd in class.
Yeah.
Anders Bidstrup, pole setter in the M's,
brilliant.
as things stand. Very, very good showing from him, and yeah, different day, better day for him.
Yep. Here's super slow-mo of Michael Verhagen's car then. And yes, the session done and dusted. Still out there on a lap, though, is Danilo Del Favaro, who has crossed, actually, and the checkered flag out. So the Penske Sportwagen Hamburg driver, Danilo Del Favaro. We wait for the official confirmation from race control, and we can bring you the confirmed classification in just a few moments. But that was the Pirelli and Pirelli Am qualifying session for their race 2 of the weekend. Ferrari Challenge, we're live from Le Castellet, the Paul Ricard circuit in the south of France, for our opening event of our 2026 season. And a phenomenal season in prospect. Here is Gilles Renmans then. Curious as to why he came into the pit lane and then went back out again, and I will question him about that, what the rationale was, because there must be some rationale for doing that. Brakes now through the chicane. The number 77 car, very distinctive. And yeah, you can see the checkered flag on the LED board on the gantry there, indicating that the session is over. And in graphics, we will bring you the confirmation of the session in just a moment. And it'll be Gilles that will cross the timing line after Danilo Del Favro, if indeed Gilles wants to take the timing line, but I don't think he will. So, super slow-mos, Sergio Paulitz. He is the best of the Trofeo Pirelli drivers, the Inico Reparto Corsa Ram driver. And Anders Bidstrup, the best of the Pirelli AM drivers. There indeed is the number 29 car of the Formula Racing driver, Anders Bidstrup. So here comes the classification. Sergio Paulitz and Gilles Remens, the top two Pirelli drivers. Anders Bidstrup, the best of the AM drivers. He was ahead of Max Mugelli. Then Michael Verhagen, second in the Pirelli AM qualifying. Then it was Danilo Del Favro, Nobuhiro Imada, Giacomo Rinaldo. And they headed Herbert Guys, Karl Runefeld, Otto Blanken, Jacob Bidstrup. So the results by Faye, done and dusted. That qualifying session is complete. We have another qualifying session to come, and that will be for our Ferrari Challenge UK drivers. Please join us for that if you can. Bye-bye for now. Hello everyone and welcome to the Ferrari Challenge UK qualifying session, which is about to get underway. We had a super race yesterday from our drivers from the UK, and in fairness, a super qualifying session as well, where it was nip and tuck between the Yates family, Gilbert and Bradley, a father and son combo, and the UK season kicking off here at the Circuit Paul Ricard. From here, we go to Snetterton in Norfolk, then Silverstone, followed by Alton Park, Brands Hatch, where we race not only on the Grand Prix circuit, but the Indy circuit as well. And then the season final will be at Donington Park in Leicestershire. That's the way the UK calendar shapes up. And we'll see how our qualifying session shapes up with track temperature now 15 degrees. The air temperature has improved 2 degrees, but that's not much, frankly. And it still feels quite cold. So 30 minutes on the clock for our Ferrari Challenge UK drivers. And we will see who will do what and where across this 5.842 kilometre circuit. We have 15 turns, 6 left, 9 right. It was built in 1969. But the first race was hosted in 1970. The sectors, Sector 1 and Sector 2, are real power sectors, if you will. But Sector 3, very, very technical, where there's hardly a straight involved, and you're constantly inputting into the steering, which makes the sectors very different, and the setup of the car pretty critical. They're lined up below us in our commentary studio, ready to go out onto the track. We've got new drivers and we've got returning drivers, which is absolutely fantastic to see. And one driver that I hoped was going to be returning and isn't returning is Steve Dobson, who I know is listening in and watching in. And Steve, look forward to seeing you back out on the track very soon, friend. And right, let's see who can do what, Nico, in this qualifying session.
Indeed, and it was a very, very lively qualifying session yesterday, and we expect much more of the same today. It was a lively qualifying session. In fact, it was even more of a lively race yesterday. Lots of moves, lots of overtakes. You already referenced the Battle of the Yates, which went back and forth for the lead of the race. Christopher Baton going through shot. There is Gilbert Yates. Mike Dewhurst as well. And yeah, it was really, really interesting to see how the drivers, most of them not too familiar with the Castellet circuit, coming into this week. And in fairness, Peter Hunter referenced that in the post-race interview, said, well, it was only a few sessions that he had done here, and therefore qualifying session in the wet, which he hadn't raced on the circuit in the wet, was very difficult for him. Well,
didn't he make it count in the race?
He very much did, and go find the the race on YouTube and have another look at that, because he made the overtake of the race and of the weekend thus far.
And there he
there
goes.
He is, perfectly captured from the drone shot as well, and he came from almost. Yeah, I think it was almost the Italian border that he came from, all the way back past a number of cars into that chicane, and then had a fight with this man, Darren Howell, all the way to the end, came out on top, took the race win. Darren Howell came in second. Didn't look too unpleased about that, in fairness.
Darren is such a, you know what, having seen him race and drive, Darren has done so well, so well. Here's Joseph Dean, and another one of our returning drivers, if you will, into the Ferrari Challenge UK. Yes, let's see who's going to do what. The meaningful lap times will be on the screen very, very soon. But yesterday's race was phenomenal, and Nico, you're right to big up the Peter Hunter effort, if you will. There you can see Chris Baton for Grey Paul Nottingham, who of course was on the podium yesterday. Well done, Chris. And I have to say that with our Ferrari Challenge UK drivers and the support they get from the dealers who are all here enjoying the success of the series, and they love being part of it. And you can see Chris Baton being chased right now by Gilbert Yates, I believe, right up his trumpet. Flashing his lights, and yeah, Gilbert wants to get going here. Must be really from a family emotions point of view. Gilbert made this point when I was talking to him off the air, in that you want to see your son do well, and you're proud when your son does well. But when your son is beating you, there's kind of a mixed emotion, because you still want to be winning. And Bradley Yates, you will recall, was on the top step of the podium yesterday, and he said, you know, proud and disappointed in the same vein. How can that happen, you know? So really interesting family dynamic there, Nico.
Yeah, absolutely. And there he is now, still not getting by Christopher Baton, or does he? This final sector, we've seen that in qualifying before, and now indeed he goes through. It's a little bit of it's a little bit mean to the drivers, because sometimes you do so well through two sectors where in theory you have so much space on the long straights to get past the slower moving car, and then you come to the final sector and there is no space for the other drivers to move to the side without compromising your lap. Yeah. So thanks for that, circuit designer. It's not Hermann Thielke in that regard. Anyway, we're getting back onto script. There is the parade of Gilbert Yates, and there is Peter Hunter and Christopher Baton coming across the line. Temperature, as you can see, has increased to 9.1 temperatures, which is really rather not warm.
No, it's not south of France like, is it? Whoa, come on. Gilbert is absolutely pushing, as he does. He is one of those drivers, and I have spoken to Gilbert a lot. I mean, bear in mind, he comes into this season, Nico, having won the Trofeo Pirelli Championship for 2 years consecutively. Chased all the way to the championship last year by a brilliant driver called Pranav Vangala, who sadly isn't on the grid today. Pranav, if you're listening, watching, miss you. Hope you're going to be back. But Gilbert is just so focused. Else is unsatisfactory.
Well, and then you're the two-time champion, and then you get the biggest rival coming out of your own family.
And we saw, and I mentioned this yesterday. We saw the glimpse of the talent that was there, and because Bradley raced in the final round last year, and you could sense that, he'd done Club Challenge, and Club Challenge is kind of like a feeder into the Ferrari Challenge. It's a non-competitive event. In that first showing, the final race last year, so there was no question that if he were to come into this, that he would be a force to be reckoned with, and he proved that yesterday, having taken the win away from his dad.
Prove that, and then some, absolutely. And I think what Bradley said in the post-race interview with Sanella was, I made a few mistakes.
Yeah.
And let my father pass. And then I thought, well, he was gapping me a little bit, and I didn't think I could recover. And then I found my groove and my rhythm, and then he was able to get back. That P1 position actually won with quite a bit of a margin at the end. And I think that's a sign of maturity. You sometimes, I don't want to say get rattled, but you lose your rhythm a little bit. But then if you are able to recover and find it again, that is the mark of someone who has a lot of talent and a lot of confidence. And a lot of talent, a lot of confidence. Isn't that a nice transition? Manuela Gostner on screen.
Yes, with brilliant entry into the Ferrari Challenge UK this year. Choosing to race in the UK and comes here as Coppa Shell champion from Europe. And her rationale for wanting to race in the UK, the iconic circuits that she wants to add to her bucket list, which is lovely to hear. I think cuisine also formed a part of it, the great British cuisine.
No. No.
Don't be so mean.
No.
She's very much looking forward to it, and we could see yesterday just how competitive she is going to be. And at the moment is second fastest. It's Gilbert Yates, Manuela Gostner, Bradley Yates, Joseph Dean, and it's Chris Baton and Mike Dewhurst. Mike Dewhurst, of course, elevated into Trofeo Pirelli this year, Nico, because he won the Shell Championship last year. Big shout out also to Robert Rees, who is here in attendance this weekend. He was the Shell champion before Mike Dewhurst, a super man, and Mike really chased him to the championship. So that would have been in where are we now? That would have been 2024. 2025 was Mike Dewhurst's year, and rightly and deservedly so. With some fantastic races across the UK. I mean, it really is an emerging championship. And the reason I say that is because, unfortunately, just as the Ferrari Challenge UK Championship started, that hideous pandemic affected all of us, and that kind of, what can I say, slipped the clutch on the progression rate. But we're back, and we're back with a vengeance, and really doing well and enjoying it. So, that's fantastic. This is the young whippersnapper Bradley Yates, who, as you quite rightly said, it was really interesting to hear what he had to say when Sanella spoke to him yesterday, and good to extract that information out of Bradley, who is perhaps a little more generous with his comments than Gilbert would be. Gilbert is very, as I say, he's just very focused and very. Who's your biggest rival? Don't have rivals. He's great. I think the world of him. Yeah. Chris Baton, another driver that's going to be brilliant this year, and we can already see his pace, Nico. Quickest through Sector 1, personal best through Sector 2. He is going to be an addition to the Coppa Shell ranks for sure. It's growing on me, the colour schemes. You know, there are different colour schemes across some of our 296 Challenge cars this year. I wasn't convinced the orange and green was going to work for me, Chris, but it's growing on me.
Good. No, I like it.
What is my opinion? I mean, trust me, I ain't going to be worried about what I think.
I don't think Christopher will change the color scheme because of that. Bradley Yates, he is not changing anything. Well, he's currently in P2, but this lap certainly looks like an improvement and something that would trouble Gilbert Yates, his father's time for provisional pole position. Now, we're still in the early stages of this session, but having the best possible lap time never hurts. Bradley Yates just one more turn to do now. That right-hander. And then it's just finding the sweet spot for the throttle. Not too early, but not too late either. 208.663 becomes 207.727. 9/10 of a second, and family order reshuffled.
Yes. That will put the wind into the Gilbert Yates sail, dare I say, or a metaphoric kick up the art bottom. There is Benny, who is driver coach to Bradley. You can see. Cheers, mate. Most of the drivers have driver coaches, of course, and they help them. And Darren Howell, Nico, has just split the top two Pirelli drivers with a 208.655. A big shout out to Darren's family who are here this weekend. They're always supporting him. Charlotte and Paris. And, oh, you've just pointed out something I didn't want to see, Nico, and that's about a track limit lap time deletion.
Yeah, and it says on our timing screen that Bradley Yates' lap time has been deleted. Now, it hasn't changed the order yet, but don't be surprised if that number 11 car drops down the order a little bit.
Do you think that was the final turn where he was perhaps just too early on the gas?
I think it was set turn 15, so that would indicate that it's very much towards the very end. And yes, indeed, turn 15 is the final lap of the track. And, well, the order hasn't updated yet. In any event, Bradley Yates, whether he's wise of that or not, pushing once again and again showing purple sectors, so trying to make that decision effectively irrelevant by just setting an even quicker time.
Yeah. That's the way to respond, isn't it? We're close to the halfway stage of this qualifying session. We expect, or are expecting, that drivers will come in about half distance and put a new set of tyres on. We're watching the John Turner car, or we were. There's Manuela Gostner, and right on cue, as I was saying about new tyres, in comes the Manu car. Scrubbed set from yesterday come off. New set for today go on, and quite clearly, Nico, you're always presumably going to set your best time on new tyres.
That is definitely the plan and the intention, and yes, I mean, we've seen that time and time again.
There's Giorgio. Giorgio Giotto, team boss and driver coach to Manu. Husband as well, following their marriage last year. We offered them congratulations, and you can see there how proud Manu is of the marriage with the name Manuela Gostner Sono Giotto on the side of the car. They are lovely people, lovely people. There's Bradley Yates, and there's Benny talking to him. Benny Simpson, then driver coach, who I've spent quite some time with, I have to say, and you see how the driver coach and the input, Nico, and how you need your driver. And I was talking to Matt Griffin, European Le Mans champion from years ago, you know, who is still a fine racing driver and a driver coach as well, and saying, you know, you need your driver to be like a sponge and to be able to absorb all the information that you give, but not only absorb it, but act upon it as well, actually deliver it. And that's the importance of the relationship that you have between a driver coach and a driver. Now, Darren Howell's driver coach is Sean Doyle, and you know, I was talking to Sean yesterday. Darren's improvement graph, if you like, as a racing driver, been absolutely brilliant. And yeah, he of course was on the podium yesterday, and he's, you know, arguably the nip and tuck between him and Peter Hunter. He nearly had the win, didn't he?
Yeah, it wasn't far off. And
there is Sean Doyle. We just saw him in the screen. Thanks, guys. And the big shout out to the director and all the team in the OB truck.
Yeah, thanks Franco. Thanks
do a good
everybody.
Job for us. Yeah.
Andrea, and obviously also our camera guys all around the circuit, bringing great images here from the Castellet. And I mean, the circuit itself, the optics are just amazing.
Yeah.
But it takes a good team to bring that to you and bring the best out of it. And
then they hear me.
Showcase our
Life is
stars
fair,
in the 296. I'll ignore that. 296 challenge as they deserve.
You can see just talking to him, and often, and you know, this will bear relevance, Nico, to the Ferrari Challenge European series. Oftentimes, Gilbert Yates' driver coach is one Mr. Tom Fleming.
Absolutely.
You'll remember.
I remember, and we have seen him do pretty well a number of times. Very briefly mentioning Peter Hunter, the man of famed overtakes, currently not picturing in your graphics on the left-hand side by virtue of the fact that he hasn't set a time yet, so which changes exactly at that moment.
But it's not a quick one.
It's not a quick one, but it was glorified outlap, I would say. So he also yesterday was very much to the bottom until the dying stages of the session, then elevated a few spots at the end of the session, and then at the start, I think, made up 4 or 5 positions even before the first turn. So he will hope for maybe an easier starting position.
I don't know, actually. I don't know.
Like you think he prefers it to do it the hard way?
No, I don't. Peter is one of these characters that is, you know, whatever is placed in front of him, he's going to try and beat it, you know. And yesterday, that was the move of the day, wasn't it? In my opinion, no question. Yeah. Andrea Seminara is currently 13th overall, and Andrea is 8th within class. And there is an interesting driver who's Italian but has lived in Chelsea for a very long time, and he's therefore racing in the Ferrari Challenge UK series. And I enjoyed talking to Andrea over the course of this weekend, and I think he's going to be a real force to be reckoned with in the Ferrari Challenge. He's done Club Challenge, and we've already talked about Club Challenge and extolled the virtues of that kind of feeder series into the Ferrari Challenge. It's Bradley Yates leading from Darren Howell, and then Gilbert Yates, who won't be happy with P2 in class and P3 overall. That you can be assured. There's Giorgio for the Reparto Corsa Ram team. And here right now is the number 81 car of Chris Bayton, who is 3rd fastest in the Shell drivers, Nico.
Yeah, had a good showing yesterday, as did Andrea Seminara. Just missed out on the podium by a few tenths.
Yes.
Finishing in P4, which is good in itself, but he would have loved to get the season underway on the podium with some silverware. But there is more opportunity for that later today. Darren Howell, he also got his silverware for 2nd place. Currently residing in P1 in class, and probably wouldn't mind finishing the day in that position.
I thought you were going to say residing in Lincolnshire, which would be accurate.
Peter Hunter, the rival who was P1 yesterday, was P14 just a moment ago, has moved up to 3rd in class, so already a better position than at this stage of the session yesterday.
Part of the Peter Hunter character trait is I interviewed him after the race yesterday, and I said, talk us through your race from start to end, Peter. And he said, yeah, we had a start, a middle, and an end. That is Peter Hunter. His character trait is wonderful. He's sometimes unfiltered, which for me makes him all the more entertaining. I'm sorry, he really appeals. Do you know what I mean? In terms of character traits, you know, he's one of these characters. Oh dear, dear, dear.
We have had quite a few.
Darren Howler's at the top of the chart, Nico. Sorry, I'm interrupting myself, but at 2:08.451. Way to go, Darren.
And we'll Looked like it would be in for even more of an improvement.
Christmas, I missed that, but
No.
what I didn't miss was Gilbert Yates having bested his son Bradley. Here comes Sean Ran, who's on an improvement trajectory as well. Sean Ran here for HR Owen as he crosses the timing line right now. Sean Ran is second in the Shell drivers. So it's all changing in the final few moments as we were waxing lyrical.
Yeah, I think we're now seeing the drivers who had been in the pit lane having concluded their outlap and their preparation cycle, and we'll get more quick times over the next few moments, including potentially from Christopher Baton, who is certainly putting personal best sector times in, as he's already into that final sector, and Bradley Yates is as well.
Tell you who I think he's out of position at the moment, Nico. It's Mike Dewhurst, personally. But anyway, here's Bradley Yates. He's taken a third out of previous best time. Sector 1 is looking good. Sector 2 not quite as good, but he's still on a trajectory of improvement. So the Yates family battle continues unabated. Gilbert besting Bradley currently, but Bradley is on a charge here now. Has he bailed this lap, Nico? It looks like he's slowed.
Yeah, it looks like it. I don't know why he would have, because the sector times really were good, but
I reckon he was told Sector 2 was not where you needed to be, so concentrate on setting yourself up for the next lap. I don't know that, but that's just what I think Benny might have been saying to him on the radio.
yeah, and I mean, he is currently now in P3, which is because that previous lap time had been deleted. It was on the board for quite some time, but it's now been removed. And another potential could be that we didn't see that maybe he ran afoul of track limits, and his team might have noticed it and said, oh, actually, that lap will not count. So let's see. It's conjecture at that stage, but what's not conjecture is that Darren Howell still resides in P1. And Bradley Yates is going to go again.
Here comes Joseph Dean. Great showing from Joseph Dean in Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli. Third fastest, personal best Sector 1. Better than anyone in Sector 2. Joseph Dean doing a great job here. This could be an improvement for the young man from Essex, just down the road from where I live. Being represented, of course, by the Stratstone Colchester dealership, who are here this weekend. Rob is here from that dealership, and Joseph Dean has gone P1, Nico. Well done, friend.
Absolutely, P1 at 2:06.543.
And Ian Morris has gone P1 in the Shell drivers.
Yeah, now the times are really tumbling down. Let's see what Manu Gosner can do. She has been dropped quite a few positions. 4th in class, as you can see, 8th overall, but no more P1 overall, P1 in class, the 2:06.232, and I would venture that we will see 2:05s before the end of the session.
I think you're right. Here comes Gilbert Yates then. Absolutely determination. Personal best Sector 1, personal best Sector 2. He's currently P3 in class, but that's a long way down the overall order. But now he goes P1 with a 2:05.423. Now, Nico, he did that 8/10 quicker than anybody else, and he did that with only... knocked one of the bollards for a Burton. He did that with only... personal bests, not overall bests. Manu Gosta actually picking up a track limit penalty as well, Nico. Here comes Bradley Yates trying to respond with personal bests across Sector 1 and Sector 2. So Bradley Yates, who's been relegated to P8 overall, P4 in class, he heads towards the timing line now. Did he run afoul of track limits in the final turn? I wonder. He breaks the timing beam and he goes P2. Let's see if that lap time stays. So it's Gilbert Yates, Bradley Yates. I'm convinced that he had a track limit last time around, and Benny said, do you know what, ease up, set yourself up for the next lap, and I think that's what he did. Here comes Joseph Dean once again. The Stratstone Colchester driver, again with personal bests across Sector 1 and Sector 2. We've got 4 minutes remaining in this qualifying session, which is shaping up to be a humdinger, Nico.
Indeed, and Joseph Dean now, P4. He was at the top of the charts just a few moments ago, and he's trying to recapture that. Not quite. P3 is where he resides in for the moment. less than 4 minutes remaining. That means probably he's got 2 more attempts at this if he wants to take them. Tire preservation will come into play at some point. But as you say, there are quite a few drivers still out of position. Mike Dewhurst, P13, he was at the sharp end of the grid yesterday. And he will look to change that. Gilbert Yates, P1, he won't look to change that necessarily, but he wants to get more cushion between himself and everybody else.
And I think he's on course to do that, Nico, with a sector 1 purple, sector 2 blue, and heading towards the timing line now. Takes 3, nearly 4 tenths out of his previous best time. So it's Gilbert Yates, Bradley Yates, Joseph Dean, and then Manuel Agostina. That's the way it looks in the Pirelli drivers. For the Pirelli AM drivers, Andrea Seminara, whilst we've been looking at the Pirelli drivers, Andrea Seminara has quietly been going about what he needs to do, and he's gone best in Shell. And here's Joseph Dean improving sector 1 and sector 2 purples. He's got traffic ahead of him. Andrea Seminara, the best of the Shell drivers, ahead of Chris Baton. But what can Joseph Dean do here? This looks like a P3 improvement potentially from P3. No, he's bailed the lap, Nico.
Yeah, looks like it. Equally, Race Control and the Yates family not becoming friends together with turn 15, because both Bradley and Gilbert have their last lap time deleted because of turn 15, which is exactly what you pointed out, running a little bit wide on the exit of that final turn.
Well, that elevates to Joseph Dean then to P2, but drops Bradley Yates down to P5, Nico.
Yeah, it was, and he's now coming,
That's debris on the track, isn't it? That looks like a bollard or something. It's off the racing line, to be fair. Here comes Joseph Dean, who currently now sits P2, Nico, so it would be a front row start for Joseph Dean, which would be his first front row start in the Ferrari Challenge UK.
Yeah, Bradley Yates, we're looking at his time because obviously he's the one who's the most out of position, arguably.
Yes.
Down in P10 overall, and with a good first sector, purple first sector actually. So he is on an upward trajectory, but it's that final turn that has bitten him twice already in this session. And
it's just the back end being a bit too wide, isn't it?
Yeah, just
a lot of people suffer that. Ian Morris,
wherever that came from.
Ian Morris for Maranello Sales, Nico, has just bested Andrea Seminara, and he's gone quickest in the Shell drivers. So it's now Ian Morris, Andrea Seminara, and Chris Baton, the top 3 in Shell. The top 3 in Pirelli currently Gilbert Yates, Joseph Dean, and Manu Gosner. Mike Dewhurst has come and delivered a lap and is now P4, so it'll be a second row start for Mike Dewhurst. Bradley Yates, as you mentioned, he's the one out of position now, and we're running out of time here. Joe Dean, this lap is not looking as good as his previous laps, Nico. Where is he on track? Is he going to be able to get another lap in?
No, I don't think so. Bradley Yates, however, will, and we expect his updated time in just a few moments. And there it is indeed, and it's second best and only less than 7/100ths off the pace. But with 18 seconds remaining, that means if he decides to do it one more time, he has the opportunity. Now, we didn't see him around that final turn, which has been his nemesis this morning.
As it has for Peter Hunter, who's just had a lap time deleted.
And Peter Hunter back down into 6th in class, so more like what it was yesterday.
Wobble there for Joseph Dean as he's pushing hard. And unfortunately, you were absolutely right. And I don't mean that as a insult to you, but you were right in that he's crossed the timing line with the checkered flag out, which means he cannot go again. But nonetheless, if it stays this way with Joseph Dean taking a P3, I'm pretty sure that's going to be his best starting position in Ferrari Challenge since joining last year. And credit to Joseph Dean.
We've got more track limit time deletions, including Gilbert Yates, and now all of a sudden Bradley Yates is vaulted into P1. And well, Gilbert is still out there, and his sector time after 2 is 4/100ths down. So this is really getting to the sharp end of this qualifying session.
This
And
is Bradley we're watching.
But he's just crossed the timing line, didn't improve. So it means Joseph Dean actually gets a front row start out of
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. That's brilliant. I don't think Bradley Yates is improving here.
But he is P1 now, so he doesn't necessarily have to. He's still sliding the car around. Maybe someone tell him that he doesn't have to anymore.
This has been such an exciting quali session for the Ferrari Challenge UK drivers. Well done, all of you. You provided great entertainment for us. So go on, Bradley, sling that back end out. And he does again. And he does again. But it matters not, doesn't it?
The heck. The heck, Bradley Yates.
What of the heck, yes. Well, I have to say, this has given us a brilliant storyline for the race to come, because we have so many drivers that are out of position. In Pirelli, Nico, both Gilbert Yates and Mike Dewhurst, in my opinion, are out of position. In the Shell drivers, out of position are Darren Howell and Peter Hunter. They're down there in class P5, P6. Now, we know what Peter Hunter is, like a missile when he gets going, isn't he? But, you know, they are out of position. So this is going to provide a fantastic race for us this afternoon.
As they always do, but as you say, slightly reshuffled order, at least in terms of expectations, certainly doesn't detract from the drama. Ian Morris on pole position, which will give him a point in the championship, but it also gives him the best possible starting position. We talked about Andreas Seminara missing on the podium by a few tenths. He's on the front row in terms of class.
Fantastic. Brilliant qualifying session. Well done, Bradley Yates, Charles Hurst driver. Well done, Joseph Dean, Stratstone Colchester driver, P2. And well done to Ian Morris. Classification in just a moment. This is not one of our racing cars, it's our racing drone from the television crew, doing half a lap there for our benefit. Here then, confirmation as I promised. Bradley Yates taking P1 from Joseph Dean. Then Gilbert Yates and Mike Dewhurst and Manu Gosner. For our Shell drivers, Ian Morris ahead of Andreas Seminara and Chris Bayton. And then we find Sean Rann with a good qualifying session. Then it's Darren Howell, Peter Hunter, Hussein Sert, William Bolster and John Turner, as you can see on screen. So that's the way it looks for qualifying for Ferrari Challenge, Trofeo Pirelli and Coppa Shell. And look at the delight for Joe Dean. He really does deserve that. From his best qualifying, definitely, in the Ferrari Challenge UK. From Circuit Paul Ricard, until our races this afternoon, thank you for watching. Goodbye.